Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Luke Mick here, and today I am doing another Criterion Marathon. This is the sequel, Criterion Marathon number 2. I got a lot of positive feedback from that video. It seems like a lot of you liked it, had a lot of nice comments in there. So in selecting these films, I wanted to pick things that I know I've been just holding off on for way too long, and I was also communicating with a few of you about films that I feel like I need to watch, and just listening to your suggestions. And for this video, I'm going to be watching a couple of films that a few of you have come to me with and said, like, you got to watch this. This is one of my favorite films, and you haven't watched it, please check this one out. So that's what I'm doing. So just going forward too, if there are films that you want me to review or watch, things that I haven't seen, or just things you want to hear me talk about, definitely leave a suggestion down in the comments, because I think that's very helpful. It lets me know what you all want to see, and it can really help me see more films that I have yet to watch. So let's stop goofing around and let's start the Criterion Marathon. To be honest, I think I have a knack for selecting the most beautiful days to be sitting inside, watching movies. But to be fair, I never really liked the outdoors anyway. Just kidding. That's a joke. It's nice outside. I just burn really easily and have allergies.
Persona is the drama of a despair. A silence.
Okay, so I just finished watching Persona. I'll be honest with you, my experience with Bergman is not very wide at all. The only other film of his I've seen is The Seventh Seal, and to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of The Seventh Seal. I watched it about a year ago for my film and religion class, and I felt that it had a lot of really unnecessary comedy in it, and that's really the thing that I disliked the most about the film. But this isn't a Seventh Seal review. This is my reaction upon my first viewing of Persona, what many consider to be one of Bergman's very best films. What did I think of it? So right off the bat, Persona, it really had my attention. I loved the more experimental direction that Bergman took with this film as opposed to what I had seen in The Seventh Seal. And just remember, I don't have a very good idea of the context of Persona in Bergman's filmography. This is just the perspective of someone who's not a big Bergman connoisseur, if you will. So, I love the opening credits. The opening credits really take you by surprise, and it really digs into the kind of experimental filmmaking that I think Bergman was going for with Persona. Lots of striking, shocking imagery, great sound design and music. It just grabbed me
right by my freaking neck.
And from there, we get a really intriguing setup. Essentially, a famous actress just stops speaking and stops moving, basically, one day. She just lays around in bed. She can hear people. She listens to them. She's all there mentally and physically, is what the doctors are saying, but she just refuses to do anything. And a nurse, played by Bibi Anderson, is assigned to take care of her and go to a summer home with her and watch over her and try to coax her into speaking again and getting back to her life. And at about the 45-minute mark, about halfway through this movie, that kind of conventional, intriguing setup just goes completely haywire and crazy, and the movie delves into the two characters and their personas coming together, essentially. It gets so very complicated, the second half of this film, and I don't know how to process all of it yet. It reminded me a lot of Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, which is a film that I really, really enjoy. I think that's a great odyssey, a great mystery, and just such an exciting unraveling film. And Persona, in a way, is like that. It's on a much smaller scale, but it has those same core elements and the same experimental type filmmaking and just weird sound design and things like that. And something else that I want to point out is that, to me, Bibi Anderson in this shot in particular has this striking resemblance to Naomi Watts in my eyes. She looks a lot like Naomi Watts to me, and I think that also helped me connect this film with Mulholland Drive. It's really hard for me to decide. I've never seen anything that presents itself in this way. A lot of things in the film, you can't take them at face value. It's just sort of, you see things happen. There are a couple of different interpretations, several different interpretations you could have as to what's happening. I mean, I have to read up on what people have to say about this movie and what their idea of the outcome of this film really is, because it's a very disorienting film. And in a lot of ways, I just love films like that, where nothing is really answered, or at least most things aren't answered, and you're kind of left with a bunch of weird pieces that you don't know how they fit together. There's a part towards the end of the film where one of the characters is waking up, and I thought to myself,
when was the last time this character went to sleep?
because there, I think, are a few times in the film where you see characters get ready for bed, fall asleep, it's the next morning, whatever. So is any of it a dream or nightmare, if you will? It's just one of those kinds of movies where it's hard to follow, and you just get lost in the film. The performance from Bibi Andersson is fantastic. Through a lot of the first half of the film, she just speaks and tells stories to the other character's name. I can't remember the actress character's name right now, but her delivery and just her emotions and the way that she would throw herself about, just her physical acting and her voice acting was fantastic. I mean, she made everything so believable. She's one of the best parts in the film, in my opinion. Also, Bergman's cinematography and the shot composition, the framing, everything about Persona looks just gorgeous, and the Blu-ray restoration by Criterion was absolutely fantastic. It is a feast to the eyes, if you will. It's just a film that you get really sucked into, and I just don't know how to feel about the later half of the film at the moment, because there is just so much unknown and so many different variables I have to take into consideration when trying to figure out what I had just watched. So that's my initial reaction off of Persona. It's definitely a film I will watch again. I'll have to watch it again. I think it is a must-see of the Criterion collection. It's definitely a step up from my enjoyment of The Seventh Seal. Like I said, I didn't really love that film, but I did really enjoy my time with Persona, and I look forward to seeking out more classic Bergman works throughout the rest of my life. I don't know, however long that is. So those are my thoughts on Persona. Now let's move on to the next film of the Criterion Marathon. That really was a timeless mystery, wasn't it? So we just watched Picnic at Hanging Rock. Of course, for me, it is the first time I've seen the film. And what are my first impressions of Picnic at Hanging Rock? Well, I would say that it very much reminds me of another classic mystery in pop culture and film and television: The Disappearance of Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, if you don't know, is basically my favorite television show, and I just was able to draw a lot of parallels between the disappearance of Laura Palmer, or the murder of Laura Palmer, and the disappearance of the girls at Hanging Rock. The character of Miranda even is sort of like, to me, the Laura Palmer figure. One of her teachers even calls her a Botticelli angel.
Now I know. What do you know? I know that Miranda is a Botticelli angel.
And Laura Palmer as a character always had like an angelic way and aura around her. A lot of people viewed her that way, and that's how the character of Miranda in Picnic at Hanging Rock is viewed as well. I wonder if David Lynch had kind of a Picnic at Hanging Rock influence for Twin Peaks. But overall, I think that the mystery and the story and just the aftershocks of the events that occur in Picnic at Hanging Rock were just incredibly riveting to watch unfold. This film is based off of a book, and very luckily, actually, I don't know if any other Criterion box sets do this, but it comes with the novel. I am actually very likely going to read the book, because I feel like I could get
More
pieces of the puzzle out of reading the novel. The thing that I love about this film so much is it's just a great mystery. I've always been very fascinated by disappearances, probably why I really like Twin Peaks as well. I just find the unknown frightening and just very intriguing, and I just get really sucked into it. And Picnic at Hanging Rock is the kind of story where there are so many things that are left unanswered, and they give you a lot of good pieces of information along the way, just enough for you to work with and create something in your mind, some kind of solution in your mind, even though you'll never get the true answer. As far as the technical aspects of this film go, I really liked the warm, light look of this film. The cinematography was very vibrant and very glowy, and it just looked really sweet and nice.
And the shots of the hanging rock.
Of the rock formations and the mountain, if you will, whatever you want to call it, was scary. Like, you never thought a rock could be so scary, but just the way they used the music and just the angle they got for those shots, they made those rocks look really menacing. And whatever rocks those were, you could almost make out like faces. Like, you could almost see face formations in the rock. So I think that the location they shot this film at really lent itself to the menacing qualities of Hanging Rock. I think the shooting location was great. I think it fit really well for this story. There are also just a really wide and vast array of characters who are all affected by this in different ways, and I found each and every one of their continuations of the events of this film were pretty entertaining. I especially liked watching the two boys who saw the girls walk by before they disappeared. I really enjoyed watching their investigation. I thought that was pretty exciting, and a lot of really great music was used in those moments as well. And that's something else I want to touch on, is that I loved the music in this film. A lot of it is just reworkings of classical tunes and classical music that's been around forever, but just the way that they recorded it and some of the instruments they used, I really loved the pluckiness of the piano. They used a lot of organ, which gave it a really nice spooky synthy sound, and also it's not a chant, but it was almost like a gospel type singing. I just thought the music was really well done, and it created a very eerie tone for this film, and it also just gave it this very regal and grand feeling as well. And that's really a good way to describe the movie, in my opinion, is that the whole thing just feels very regal. It's very classical. It took place in 1900, so it's a period piece, and it never felt boring or dated, if you will. Sometimes period pieces can be a little bit mundane to me, but there was just some sort of weird energy that this film and the story had that really kept me invested throughout the whole thing, and I think the music really added to that as well. There are a lot of things I also want to talk about, but there is one spoilery thing I want to talk about, so if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, or if you are, if you plan on watching it or reading it, don't watch this part of the video. So, what happened to Sarah? Because right at the end of the film, one of the men who run the greenhouse or something on the campus, he is just in the greenhouse checking on the plants, and behind these plants that move, they move on their own, we learned that earlier in the film, is Sarah's dead body, hidden behind it, and there's blood on her face, and I don't even know what happened after that. It was just such a really weird note to end the film on. Was Mrs. Appleyard responsible for that? Because she definitely was butting heads with Sarah a lot throughout the film. I just thought that was really weird, and I want to read the book so I can kind of get a better idea as to what exactly happened there, because it was very shocking and surprising, and then really quickly after we see that, the movie ends. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what I experienced through Picnic at Hanging Rock. I definitely could talk about more, but since this is just Criterion Marathon and we're moving on to the next thing, I think I should stop. But I really like Picnic at Hanging Rock quite a bit. I think it'll go down as a movie that I really love. That's that. I'm really happy to have watched it. I thought it was great. So, moving on to the last film of the Criterion Marathon. We got a fun one. We got an action one, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a nice, exciting flick. Let's move on to the third film, the final film of the Criterion Marathon. Okay, so we just finished watching Police Story. And now that I think of it, I'm feeling a little bit chilly. I suppose the old MacLeod wouldn't mind if I put his jacket on. Do you think he'd really care? He hasn't been by to pick it up ever since the whole
coronavirus thing.
I don't think that... Hey! So, Luke Mick didn't know this, but I was watching from behind the couch. I saw all of Police Story. I don't know what his opinion of it was. I didn't ask him. He didn't even know I was there, of course. But, let me tell you what I thought of Police Story. Now, I didn't watch the other two boring movies. I only watched the action one. The one with the guns and the crashes and the stunts and the explosions and the broken glass everywhere. Alright, let's tone it down. Let's tone it down. We gotta just breathe. We gotta get real. We gotta actually talk about this and not just freak out all the time. Not the normal Mick Luke thing. I gotta adhere to his rules and his behaviors and give the viewers what they want, what they really, really are here for. So, Police Story. This is me doing my Luke Mick impression. Police Story. Essentially, it was an exciting film. Precursor. I have never really watched any original classic Jackie Chan films, honestly. I've seen like Rush Hour as a kid growing up. Those are obviously popular, US films. But I've never watched any of his like Hong Kong productions or anything like that. This was the first one. And right off the bat, what I will say is that the action and stunt work, of course, like you'd expect, was just phenomenal in this. And something about Police Story 1 and 2 in particular, we only watched the first one today, Jackie Chan directed it, which I thought was great because obviously in recent history, the John Wick series has been directed by stuntmen or performers, and those films have turned out really great with the way they shoot action. Same thing here, Jackie Chan is starring and directing in this film. There are so many scenes in this movie I could talk about, but they're just too many to even remember. There's one scene where like a car or a bus comes to like a screeching stop and three people fly out of the front window in this really wide shot. So these three men just flew out of a bus and landed on the pavement. It's crazy. The stuff that they've got on camera for this movie is really incredible, and I have to applaud it for that because that was really exciting and really impressive. This movie is also really funny. I don't think Jackie Chan wrote it, but he's obviously a very physical performer. He does a lot with his body and his facial expressions, of course, and there are a lot of good bits with his character in this movie. He plays a cop, obviously, and he's a good cop because he can take people down with the snap of his finger. He's got
Excellent fighting skills.
but he's kind of oblivious to things, and he's kind of naive. He's honestly kind of a dumb cop in a way. There's a scene where he is at the station, and all the other cops left him there for some reason. I don't even know why. And he was trying to make his ramen, but he was also answering like 4 phones at once, and he was on a rolling chair, and he had all the cords tied up. It was just really well set up, just how complicated all the wiring was, and the camera movements and the angles. It was just a really funny scene, and his physical acting style made it a really funny scene. There are actually a lot of parts in this film where I was laughing, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that joke was here, or that guy flew out a window. There were just so many moments in Police Story that just blew my mind, and maybe it's because I haven't watched Jackie Chan films like this before, but I'm really excited to see more because this was such a fun film. I will say that it does drag a little bit, and the story gets a little bit complicated. At the beginning, I was like, alright, nice, this is a pretty simple, straightforward story, but then they add a lot of things on top of it that just make it a little bit more bogged down, in my opinion. I would have preferred if it would have been just a little bit more simple. And I will say, with Criterion's Blu-ray restoration, it mostly looks pretty good. The colors are great. I did notice there were a few scenes where it was incredibly blurry, and I don't know if it was the lenses they were using when they filmed it or what, but the court scene in particular had some pretty rough shots. Like, it was pretty unclear. And the story of this movie is thin. His character is essentially just Jackie Chan as a bumbling police officer. There really isn't much to it in that department, but really that's not why you're watching this movie. You're watching it for the spectacle, for the event, for the excitement of the stunt work and the action. And this film has just crazy stunt work. It's incredible. And the way that Jackie directed it and filmed it, it's all really wide, so everything is very clear. I mean, he's doing this stuff, so he wants it to be seen. And I really appreciate that. It's stuff that I would never consider doing. I never could do any of that, but I think it's really, really just riveting and exciting when entertainers put themselves to these extreme dangers to entertain me. And that's what Mick Luke has to say, What can Luke make? What can MacLeod say? He likes seeing others put themselves in danger. That's just the way it is with MacLeod, I guess. But yeah, for a lot of the movie, during the slower parts, I was thinking, I'll probably give this like a 3.5. You know, I'm really enjoying it, but these parts are a little bit generic and a little bit boring. But after watching the entire film, and just how excited I was after watching it, and the desire I had to watch more films like it and watch the sequel that is also in the Criterion collection that's in the same box set, I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed this experience. I liked this movie a lot, so I think I'm going to give it a 4. It's not a perfect film, but it's just a lot of fun. I really liked it. So yeah, that is my take on Police Story. All right. Oh, it's bright. It is so bright without these. So that's pretty much everything. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like it and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing more. Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you have any suggestions for films that I should watch or things that you really like that you want to share with me and other viewers that I should watch for these videos, then please let me know, because I'm always open to recommendations. And if you've seen these movies or you joined the marathon with me, let me know down below. Let's talk about what we watched. And that's pretty much all that I have for you today. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all again soon, and I will talk to you later.